Known for the use of unconventional materials in his designs, Shigeru Ban is a well-known Japanese architect and icon. In order to understand his designs, we'll need to decipher his past and all his influences. Back in school, he was classmates with the daughter of Kiyoshi Ikebi, a famous architect in Japan at the time. Shigeru Ban often visited Kiyoshi and read many of his books, including Design no Kage, The Key to Design. It was then that Shigeru had decided that his approach to materials and designs would be similar to that of Ikebi. Before entering his tertiary education, he stumbled upon an issue of a magazine on John Hayuk, a New York 5 member. At the time, he knew nothing about architecture, but he was very attracted to the New York 5's works, and therefore decided to enroll at Cooper Union, where some of the New York 5 architects had graduated from or worked in. Despite all of this, his major influence was Alvar Aalto, a post-war architect. In 1986, he had worked on an Aalto exhibition project in Tokyo during his final year as a student. Aalto had a very compassionate approach to architecture, and this eventually changed the path of Shigeru's career. He had first developed the idea of using paper tubes, which he is currently known for, whilst designing the Aalto exhibition. Shigeru Ban attended the Southern California Architectural Institute and graduated from Cooper Union Architectural School in New York. He received his degree from Cooper Union in 1984. After graduation in 1985, he had set up his own office in Tokyo. In the years 1993 to 1995, he had become a professor at Tama University of Art and a visiting professor at the University of Columbia. In the years 1995 to 1999, he was hired as a consultant of the United Nations High Commissions for Refugees in Geneva after proposing his idea on improving victims' shelter. In 1995, he founded the Volunteer Architects Network, or VAN, to help victims of natural disasters and wars. Like many architects, his projects speak for him and each carry a similar element from the one before. We begin with one of his earlier projects. In 1995, the Kobe earthquake had destroyed a house of worship, and he had designed a paper church to serve as a temporary church for the faithful. It was completed in 5 weeks, and various companies donated all the materials that were necessary. 58 paper tubes supported the roof, and the structure had a dome in the center of the space, similar to the oblique domes in Baroque architecture. The structure doesn't have a complex plan, and its design stayed true to his minimalistic roots. It was then dismantled and reconstructed in Taiwan in 2008 after an earthquake had hit it. Later on in the same year, the paper log house was built for the victims of the Hanshin earthquake in Kobe. The foundation was made out of beer crates that were collected through donations, and the walls were made out of his signature paper tubes. Sponges were inserted between the paper tubes for insulation. A tenting material was used for the roof. These log houses had a basic square-shaped plan to ease construction and also to allow them to maximize the materials that were available to them. In 2005, he was given the opportunity to design an exhibition to showcase the large-scale photographic works by Gregory Colbert, called Ashes and Snow. Thus, the Nomadic Museum in Santa Monica was born. The 67 feet wide and 672 feet long exhibition was composed of 20-foot-long cargo containers that were arranged in a checkerboard pattern to form a rigid steel structure. His paper tubes were used as a roof system that was supported on a simple triangular gable. The entire structure resembles that of an aircraft hangar due to its depth and monumentality. After an earthquake ravaged the region of L'Aquila, Italy in 2011, Shigeru Ban had gifted the paper concert hall to them as a symbol of support and solidarity of the two regions. The structure consisted of 44 paper pillars with a simple pitched roof. It was composed of mainly steel, cardboard concrete, and clay sacks. A red curtain enveloped the elliptical center of the space to hide the structural support. Similar to that of Roman architecture, the elevations resembled Roman entablatures and columns. Inside the inner sanctum, the repetition of paper tubes gives a sense of rhythm and movement to the space. Despite the walls being made out of paper, the space has amazing acoustics. A more recent project of his would have to be the Cardboard Cathedral in Christchurch, New Zealand. In 2011, when a devastating earthquake occurred, the Christchurch Cathedral was terribly damaged. This cardboard cathedral was opened earlier this year and is being used as a temporary church while the original church is being reconstructed. Much like his previous works, the structure was composed mainly of cardboard. It has a capacity to house a little over 700 people and has a lifespan of about a decade. The church's design was inspired by Neo-Gothic architecture, as with most churches. Instead of a rose window, triangular pieces of stained glass were used as a replacement instead. In terms of its plans and elevations, the temporary church contains similar elements to that of the original church, such as the triangular-shaped elevations and trapezoidal plan. Shigeru Ban is also known as the paper architect because of the use of reinforced paper in his structures. Due to paper being an unconventional material to use in structures, it is no wonder why his structures are a symbol of innovation in building materials and construction. Similar to Alvar Aalto's use of natural material, Shigeru Ban drew inspiration from him and decided to use paper as a building material. He disliked the idea of wasting precious materials such as wood for temporary structures, and therefore he wanted to use something that was easily recycled. He found leftover cardboard tubes and discovered that they were strong when reinforced properly. The neutral and gentle texture of the paper tubes reminded him of Aalto's usage of wood. Due to it being inexpensive and recyclable, it was widely used in a vast majority of his structures. He had developed these paper structures to be fireproof and waterproof to increase its durability. On the contrary, his favorite material happens to be steel, which can be seen in his paper church and paper concert hall. He has used cargo containers like the ones used in the Nomadic Museum in Santa Monica and used in the structure of the cardboard cathedral. He has also used plastic beer crates as a foundation for most of his projects, like the ones in the paper loghouse. It can be seen that most of his structures are temporary and the materials can be used and recycled. This is to enable the ease of construction as well as transportation of the structure. Besides that, vast majorities of his works are shelters built for post-disaster victims. His love for humanitarian aid shows a lot in his project. Shigeru Ban is a minimalist, and this is a prominent element in his structures. Some of the characteristics of minimalism are the use of simple and few elements. For example, in his structures mentioned before, there are no complexities in terms of elevations and plan. Basic geometric shapes are used as outlines such as the ones in the paper church and cardboard cathedral. Finally, single or few shapes compose the design such as ovals, rectangles, cuboids, and triangles like in these structures. From building emergency shelters for people in need to creating buildings that can be recycled, Shigeru Ban is the people's architect. He suggests that architecture should not be about extravagance, but more about helping the society. His designs redefine architecture by using environmental friendly materials to create majestic structures that can provide and give awareness on the importance of giving back to society, which most present architects have forgotten. He started out not as an eco-friendly architect, but more on the ideology of not wanting to waste. The emergency shelters made of papers that he is most famous for gives a sense of hope and permanence to the victims of natural disasters who have lost their homes. In a nutshell, all of his projects are practical, innovative, and pragmatic. He is certainly an amazing man to look up to and to take inspiration from. And this is Shigeru Ban.